All right, let me ask you something. Have you ever had a moment where it felt like the universe was screaming at you, pay attention? Like something so strange, so coincidental, or maybe too coincidental happened that it made you stop in your tracks and wonder, what does it mean? Maybe it was a random song that came on at just the right moment, or a number you kept seeing over and over again, or maybe even something as bizarre as a cat staring at you like it knows a secret that you don't. You felt it, didn't you? You didn't imagine it. And you're not alone, because millions of people feel the exact same thing every single day. But here's the real question: are these signs real, or are we just making them up? And if they are real, what do they actually mean? Are they warnings, messages, or is it just ... nothing? Today we're going to break this down piece by piece, so you'll leave this video not only understanding the truth about these signs, but also knowing exactly what to do when you encounter one. And trust me, by the end of this, you'll look at the world in a completely different way. So let's start with the obvious: what even counts as a sign from the universe? Because here's where most people get it wrong. It's not just about seeing repeating numbers like 1111 or 333. It's not just about a random bird flying past your car. A sign isn't always something dramatic. Sometimes it's subtle, almost too subtle. It could be a gut feeling you can't shake, a sudden roadblock in your life, or even a stranger saying something so random but so specific that it feels like they were put there just for you. Now, I know what some of you are thinking: okay, but how do I know it's not just my brain playing tricks on me? And that's a fair question. Our brains are wired to find patterns. It's a survival instinct. If our ancestors saw random footprints in the dirt, they had to figure out if it was an animal, a person, or something dangerous. That pattern-seeking ability is why we can recognize faces, spot threats, and even predict outcomes. But here's the catch: just because we're good at spotting patterns doesn't mean the patterns aren't real. In fact, sometimes it's the unexplainable patterns that matter the most.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more topics you love.
Let me give you an example. Have you ever heard of someone canceling their trip at the last minute because they had a bad feeling, only to find out later that something went wrong on that trip? Or maybe someone who kept seeing a specific word or image right before a major life event. These aren't just random stories. Studies in psychology and neuroscience have shown that our subconscious minds pick up on things before our conscious minds do. It's like having a sixth sense that's constantly scanning the universe for clues, even when you're not aware of it. But here's where it gets tricky, and this is something nobody talks about. Not every sign is a sign. Sometimes it's just noise. So how do you tell the difference between a genuine message from the universe and something your brain just made up because it was bored? The answer lies in two things: timing and emotion. When a real sign shows up, it usually comes at a moment when you're seeking clarity or when you're about to make a major decision. And it hits you emotionally. It's not just, oh, that's interesting, it's whoa, that's weird. It feels personal, like the universe reached through the noise of everyday life just to tap you on the shoulder. Let's test this. Think back to a time when you felt like you experienced a sign. What were you doing? Were you at a crossroads in your life? Were you searching for answers? And how did it feel? Did it feel like more than just a coincidence? If your answer to any of those questions is yes, then chances are you weren't imagining it. And if you're still skeptical, that's fine, because in the next part of this video, I'm going to show you the science, the stories, and the steps you can take to decode these signs for yourself. Alright, so now that we've opened the door to this idea of signs from the universe, let's go deeper. Because if these signs are real, and I mean really real, then that begs a much bigger question: why do they happen? Is there some kind of force out there trying to guide us? Or is it just random, like flipping a coin? And more importantly, if the universe really is sending us messages, how do we make sense of them? Here's where things get interesting. Throughout history, people have believed that the universe speaks its own language, a language made up of symbols, emotions, and patterns. It's not like a text message or an email. It's more abstract. Think of it like this: if you were trying to explain a complicated idea to someone who didn't speak your language, you'd use gestures, pictures, or objects to get your point across. That's exactly how the universe communicates with us. It uses what's already around us: numbers, animals, people, even coincidences to send a message. Take numbers, for example. Why do so many people report seeing repeating numbers like 1111, 222, or 777? It's not because the numbers themselves are magical. It's because numbers are one of the simplest and most universal forms of communication. They're everywhere. And when you see the same number over and over again, it's like the universe highlighting a word in a book. It's trying to get your attention. But the tricky part is figuring out why. Because 1111 might mean something completely different for you than it does for someone else. That's why context is everything. Let me give you a practical tip the next time you notice a sign, whether it's a number, a feeling, or something else. Stop and ask yourself 3 questions. First, what were you thinking about when it happened? Were you stressing about a decision? Reflecting on your goals? Second, how did it make you feel? Did it make you feel comforted, confused, or even scared? And third, does it connect to anything else going on in your life? These 3 questions can help you figure out if the sign is random or if it's trying to point you in a specific direction. But here's the part that blows my mind. Some people don't just notice signs, they live by them. There are stories of people who have changed their entire lives because of a single sign. I'm talking about people who quit their jobs, ended relationships, moved across the country, all because they felt like the universe was guiding them. And while that might sound extreme, it's not as crazy as you think. Because when you start paying attention to the signs around you, you realize that the universe isn't just random. It's intentional. And maybe, just maybe, it's trying to lead you towards something bigger than you ever imagined. In the final part of this video, I'm going to reveal the most practical ways you can use these signs to improve your life, and the one mistake almost everyone makes when trying to interpret them. Trust me, you don't want to miss this. Here we are, the final piece of the puzzle. Up until now, we've talked about what signs from the universe are and how to recognize them. But let's get real for a second. What's the point of noticing these signs if you don't know what to do with them? This is where most people get stuck. They either ignore the signs completely or they overthink them to the point where they get paralyzed. So let's fix that. Here's the truth: signs from the universe are not instructions. They're not telling you what to do. They're more like road signs. They point you in a direction, but it's still up to you to decide whether to take the exit or keep driving. And this is where your intuition comes in. Your intuition is like a GPS for your soul. It knows where you're supposed to go, even when your logical brain doesn't. So when you notice a sign, don't just analyze it, feel it. Does it resonate with you? Does it feel like the right direction? If it does, trust it. If it doesn't, keep going. The universe isn't going to stop sending you messages just because you missed one. But here's the biggest mistake people make. They assume that every sign means they have to make a dramatic change in their lives. And that's not true. Sometimes a sign is just a nudge, a reminder to slow down, pay attention, or shift your perspective. It's not always about quitting your job or moving to another country. Sometimes it's as simple as calling a friend, taking a break, or saying no to something that doesn't feel right. And here's the craziest part: the more you start paying attention to these signs, the more you'll notice them. It's like tuning a radio. You start picking up on frequencies you didn't even know were there. And once you understand the language of the universe, you'll realize that it's not just sending you random messages. It's leading you toward the life you're meant to live. So now I leave you with this question: what signs have you been ignoring? And what would happen if you stopped ignoring them and started listening instead? The answers might just change your life. When you stop ignoring the signs and start paying attention, something incredible happens. You begin to see how everything in your life is interconnected. Every challenge, every coincidence, every so-called random event starts to feel like a piece of a larger puzzle. And here's the kicker: you're the one putting the puzzle together. The universe isn't doing it for you, but it's giving you the pieces. And the moment you realize that, you stop feeling like life is happening to you and start understanding that life is happening for you. Let me ask you this: what if the sign you've been waiting for has already shown up and you just didn't recognize it? Think about that for a second. Maybe the answer to the problem you've been struggling with has been sitting right in front of you the whole time, but you were too busy, too stressed, or too distracted to notice. How many times have you brushed off a gut feeling, ignored a strange coincidence, or dismissed a dream that felt too random? What if those moments weren't random at all? What if they were breadcrumbs leading you to something bigger? Now, here's the most practical advice I can give you. When you notice a sign, don't just let it pass you by. Write it down. Seriously, grab a notebook or open the Notes app on your phone and jot it down. What did you see? What were you thinking about? How did it make you feel? When you start keeping track of these moments, you'll notice patterns you didn't see before. You'll start to connect the dots. And those dots, they're the clues to what the universe is trying to tell you. But this isn't just about noticing the signs, it's about acting on them. And this is where most people stop. They see the signs, they get excited, but then fear or doubt creeps in, and they do nothing. They're afraid of making the wrong move, so they stay stuck. But here's the truth: there's no such thing as a wrong move. Every step you take, even if it feels uncertain, brings you closer to clarity. Because even if it doesn't lead you directly to your goal, it teaches you something. And that lesson might be the exact thing you need to recognize the next sign when it shows up. Let's get real for a moment. What's the biggest decision you're facing right now? Maybe it's about your career, your relationships, your health, or something else entirely. Now, think about the signs you've been noticing lately. Are they pointing you in a specific direction? Are they nudging you to take a leap of faith, to walk away from something, or to embrace an opportunity you've been hesitating on? Here's the thing: the universe isn't going to spell it out for you in big neon letters. It's going to whisper. It's going to nudge. And it's up to you to listen. But let me tell you something that might blow your mind sometimes. The biggest signs come disguised as obstacles. That failure you experienced, that rejection, that thing that didn't go the way you wanted. What if that was the sign? What if the universe was redirecting you away from something that wasn't meant for you and towards something better? It's easy to see signs in the good things, but the real magic happens when you start seeing them in the challenges. Because those challenges aren't there to stop you, they're there to shape you. Let me give you an example. There's a story about a man who lost his job unexpectedly. At first, he was devastated. He had no idea how he was going to support his family. But then, he started noticing little signs, random conversations, opportunities popping up, ideas he couldn't get out of his head. Long story short, he ended up starting his own business, something he never would have done if he hadn't been forced out of his comfort zone. Looking back, he realized that losing his job wasn't a setback, it was a setup for something greater. And that's the thing about signs, they often make sense only when you look back. But to get to that point, you have to trust the process. So how do you start trusting the process? It all comes down to letting go of control. And I know that sounds terrifying. We all want to control our lives, to plan everything out, to know exactly what's going to happen. But here's the truth: the universe operates on its own timeline. It doesn't care about your deadlines or your 5-year plan. It works in ways that often don't make sense to us in the moment. But when you let go of the need to control everything, you create space for the universe to do its thing. And that's when the magic happens. Here's a challenge for you, and yes, I mean you watching this right now. For the next week, I want you to pay attention to every sign you come across. It could be a number, a song, a conversation, a dream, or even just a gut feeling. Pay attention, write it down, and then ask yourself, what is this trying to tell me? And more importantly, what action can I take? Because signs are meaningless without action. They're like a map with no traveler. You are the traveler, and the map is useless unless you start walking. But let me leave you with one final thought, one that might just change the way you see the world forever. What if you are not just a receiver of signs, but also a creator of them? What if, by the choices you make and the energy you put out into the world, you're influencing the very signs that come back to you? Think about it. If you approach life with fear and doubt, you're more likely to notice signs that confirm those feelings. But if you move through life with trust and curiosity, you'll start to see signs that reflect that energy back to you. In other words, the universe isn't just speaking to you, it's speaking through you. So now it's your turn. What kind of energy are you putting out into the world? What kind of signs are you creating? And what would happen if you started living as if the universe was conspiring in your favor? Because here's the truth: it always has been. And the moment you start listening, not just with your ears, but with your heart, that's the moment everything changes. Thank you for watching. Now go out there and start paying attention. The universe is waiting for you. And here's the thing: the universe never gives up on you. Even if you've missed the signs before, even if you've ignored your gut instincts 100 times, the signs will keep coming. Why? Because the universe doesn't work on a system of punishment or reward, it works on a system of alignment. It's not about whether you're following the right path or the wrong path, it's about helping you find your path. And as long as you're alive, as long as you're open to paying attention, it's never too late to listen. But let me ask you something really deep, something that might make you stop and really think. If the universe is always sending us signs, then what's your responsibility in all of this? Are you just waiting for the world to tell you what to do? Or are you actively co-creating your life, working with the signs instead of passively observing them? Because here's the truth, the universe isn't just a messenger, it's a partner. And that partnership requires you to play your part. You see, signs aren't meant to control you. They're not meant to make decisions for you. They're meant to work with the choices you make. For example, let's say you're stuck in a toxic job. You keep seeing signs, maybe you get sick every Monday morning, or you keep hearing people talk about following their passions, or you even see random messages like, "Take the leap." Those signs might be pointing you to leave your job, but the universe isn't going to fill out resignation papers for you. That's your move. The universe opens the door, but you have to step through it. And this is where most people get stuck. They wait. They hesitate. They want the universe to give them 100% certainty before they act. But that's not how it works. The signs are there to guide you, but the trust, the belief, that's on you. The universe can only meet you halfway. If you're waiting for a guarantee, you'll be waiting forever. But if you take even a small step in the direction the signs are pointing, you'll start to see how everything begins to shift. Now, let's talk about something really practical, something you can do right now to start working with the signs in your life. This isn't just about noticing signs or writing them down. It's about creating a feedback loop between you and the universe. Here's how it works. Every time you notice a sign, take one small action in response. It doesn't have to be huge. If you keep seeing the number 555, research what it could mean and reflect on how it might apply to your life. If you hear a song that feels like it's speaking directly to you, take a moment to really listen to the lyrics and think about why they resonate. If a stranger gives you advice out of nowhere, consider how that advice fits into what you're going through. The point is, when you respond to the signs, you're showing the universe that you're paying attention. And when you pay attention, the universe pays attention back. It's like tuning into a conversation. The more engaged you are, the clearer the messages become. And over time, that back and forth dialogue will help you build trust not just in the universe, but in yourself. But here's the important part: don't get attached to the outcome. This is where so many people go wrong. They see a sign, they interpret it, and then they expect their life to change overnight. They think, well, I saw 1111 3 times today, so that must mean my dream job is going to fall into my lap tomorrow, and when it doesn't happen, they feel disappointed. But that's not how the universe works. The signs are there to guide you, not to guarantee a specific result. Sometimes the sign is just telling you to keep going, to stay patient, or to trust that things are unfolding behind the scenes. Let me give you an analogy. Imagine you're hiking up a mountain and you see a trail marker. The marker doesn't tell you exactly what you'll find at the top, it just tells you that you're on the right path. That's what signs are. They're not promises, they're reminders. And the more you learn to trust the process, the easier it becomes to keep moving forward, even when you can't see the whole picture. Now, let's talk about one of the biggest fears people have when it comes to signs. What if I misinterpret them? What if I think the universe is telling me to do one thing, but I get it wrong? Here's the good news: you can't screw this up. Seriously. Even if you misinterpret a sign, the universe will adjust. It's like a GPS. If you take a wrong turn, it doesn't just give up on you. It recalculates. It finds another way to guide you to where you're meant to be. So don't let the fear of getting it wrong hold you back. As long as you're paying attention and taking action, you're moving in the right direction. And here's something else to consider sometimes. The biggest sign isn't something outside of you. It's something inside of you. It's that quiet voice in the back of your mind, or that feeling in your chest that you can't explain. It's your intuition, and your intuition is the most powerful tool you have when it comes to understanding the signs from the universe. Because at the end of the day, the universe isn't separate from you. It's a part of you. And the signs you see out in the world are just reflections of what's already happening inside. So, let me ask you one last question. If you knew that the universe was always working in your favor, if you knew that every challenge, every coincidence, and every sign was part of a larger plan to help you grow and evolve, how would you live your life differently? Would you take more risks? Would you trust yourself more? Would you stop second-guessing every decision and start believing that you're exactly where you're meant to be? Because here's the truth, you're not here by accident. You're not watching this video by accident. You're here because the universe wanted you to hear this message. And now, it's up to you to decide what you're going to do with it. Will you start paying attention to the signs? Will you trust that you're being guided? Will you take that next step, even if it feels scary or uncertain? The universe has already done its part. Now it's your turn. So go out there, listen to the signs, trust your intuition, and remember the truth about signs from the universe isn't just that they exist. It's that they've been waiting for you to notice them all along. What you do next? That's up to you.